Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
So I'm assuming because the recording started when you joined that this is your meeting.
This is my meeting, yes.
So I had mentioned during the last one that I had some stuff on badges I was going to track down. So I did manage to do that. So I know you probably have a different focus since that was last time, but if at the start I can give that stuff to the group, I'm happy to do so, if that's
Okay.
still of interest.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
So I usually get started about 12:35 my time, which is in about 6 minutes. Give people time to come on and if they're running late from other meetings, that sort of thing. So
I joined early to try and sort out me being Lauren from last time because that was yeah, because the link I have for this meeting just logs me in as Lauren, but I figured it out.
yeah, there's a registration, and that's how you have to get the link. So Lauren must have registered and then shared her link, which is fine. But it's funny because I did get a notification that Lauren had joined my meeting. Welcome, folks. For those of you who just joined, we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Hi, Richard. Nice to see you.
Hi, Aaron. Same here. I'm glad to see that you're feeling better, evidently.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Last week I was down for the count with some sort of illness.
I got knocked out for 2.5 weeks straight,
Oh my.
tested negative for COVID, RSV, and flu, and so it sounds like you had what I had. They never figured out other than unspecified, but it was awful.
Mm.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Although even a cold these days feels bad, right? Because we went so long without being exposed to anything. Um, yeah, I didn't test positive either for COVID, but it felt like COVID, I'll tell you that.
I've heard there can be like weird things with current strains where it doesn't show up on a test for like weeks or something. Well, like a week or
Yeah, I
something.
can believe that. I took two, and it was the same kind of test. So I assume if it didn't catch it the first time, it wasn't going to catch it the second time.
For me, they did PCR for all three, and I was negative. So they were like very confident that it wasn't any of those. And so I was like, "Great. So what is it?" They're like, "Mm." Thanks.
Well, at least you got better. That's good. That's good. Welcome, folks. For those who just joined, we usually get started at about 12:35 my time in about 3 minutes. Lovely to see everyone here.
So Kim Larson and Candace Teal are on this call.
They are.
Hello.
Blasts from the
Why
past.
wouldn't we be, Michael? We are part of the extended Torus community.
It's good to have you.
We are the Washington contingent. Actually, Richard is from Washington, so we got three people from the great state of Washington here today.
Wonderful. And hi to everyone who's putting hi in the chat. Great to have you here. we'll get started in about 2 minutes. So Rotem, is that your name? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. Rotem has some information to share left over from the last session, which was about certificates and credentialing and badging. So we'll start off with what he brought to the group, and then we'll dig into see what has been going on to date with Torus, what features we've developed so far, what was just released in like yesterday, and what we have planned for the future. So lots of stuff to go over today. So just 2 more minutes. Great group today. Thanks for joining, everyone. Okay, it's 12:35 on my clock. So Rodem, do you want to try it? You want to share what you want? And let me make sure my screen sharing in case you need it. If you need to share the screen.
I don't. I'm just going to try and cover it kind of verbally real quickly. So first, I'll give the caveats. I'm very new here. I'm not familiar, so please feel free to interrupt me at any point with, we know we already covered this, or we're already familiar with this, because I'm just erring on the side of better to hear it twice than not hear it once. Beyond that, huge disclaimer, this is not my area of research, badging, micro-credentialing, all that. I'm just, as I mentioned in the previous meeting, I was aware of colleagues of mine at SCI that had done work in this space, so I wanted to get spun up on what, because they had spent significant effort on this. So if you do have more in-depth questions about this stuff, let me know. I'll put you in contact with them because they can answer it for you. But the work that they were doing was tied in particular on badges and micro credentialing in the context of being tied to particular learning objectives, and so this required that the learning design, the learning outcomes were tied to competencies, skills, and abilities, so that the usability would be maintained across both the platform and other platforms. And so they were considering some standards in the space that we were working in, which is IEEE's recommended practices for defining competencies, which I grabbed and I will put in the chat. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in the chat
Great.
that hopefully is useful. Related to that, their data model for reusable competency definitions. And there was this little like update blog post that was honestly a good, how do I get familiar with the high level concept of what they're doing here in 5 minutes? So I'm putting that in there because it was helpful for me. So I figured it'll be helpful for others that have limited time to see if this is even something you want to consider in here. Then there were two things. There was the Open Skills Network and that link in here as well. And the T3 Innovation from U.S. Chamber of Commerce that were all in that space, so that might be worth reviewing. I see you smiling. Is this all stuff you've already gone through and I'm wasting your time?
No,
or?
not at all. No, I'm happy that you're
Okay.
sharing these resources. It's lovely.
Okay, good. And then as far as implementing the badges goes, some of the stuff that was looked at, have you reviewed open badges at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so open badges, it's currently at version 2.1. Let me get the link to that. That was kind of the leading thing out there. That the way it works is basically applications in a Badge Connect enabled app in the Open Badges ecosystem. There's kind of two big categories of them. There's hosts that provide backpacks, which is essentially storage for your badges, someplace you can put in all the badges that you've gotten from all different LMSs and etc. And then relying parties. And so relying parties are what I would think OLI Torus would be a relying party, and their applications that either issue badges or display badges. And then OLI could be either both a host and a relying party, or just a relying party. And then that way the badges can provide recognition for recipients for achieving certain things, or be a displayer of badges where you can, kind of pull in all the badges and be able to show what people have done or give them credit for stuff.
Nice.
The badges, the reason that open badges are kind of useful is they contain verifiable assertions, and you can put them either as code, text, or baked into images. So I can literally put an image on my LinkedIn or on my, resume that is the badge that says, like, I have this skill set, or I completed this, a composable certificate. And then if somebody else goes and copies that, it won't verify. So they can take that image off of mine, put it on theirs, and then there's actually like open source verifiers out there. Actually, I think I grabbed the link for one of the validators from Badger here, where you can actually, badgecheck.io, where you can actually take these badges and put them in and be like, okay, this, and then it'll tell you like, no, this is this person's badge.
Mhm.
And so they're verifiable assertions, so people can't just, print a copy of the certificate that you gave them for somebody else and change the name on it.
Cool.
There's there's a couple of options for how to adopt that OLI could take, which is there's basically the Badger one that you can just pay them and use their implementation. I don't think that's probably the route that we want to go, but they do have an open source implementation of it on GitHub that we can pull down and then modify. If
Oh,
we want
nice.
to be part of the ecosystem there, we would then have to get just certified by them, which is not actually complex, just kind of tedious of going through, and basically they're going to go through your implementation and make sure that you're playing nice by all theirs, not just issuing a valid badge that works in the ecosystem, but following all their best practices and so forth. So there's like a little audit step there essentially. And yeah, that's basically it. Badger is the offering. It's created by Concentric Sky originally. I know that Microsoft, Mozilla, certain universities, Virginia Tech, ASU, a couple of others have adopted it and are just using it. It already it implements Open Badges 2.0 and Open Backpack 2.0. It's all on the back end. I looked into a lot of the implementation stuff. I have like 50 pages of implementation stuff I had to go through to kind of distill this out, but basically it looks like it's all built on OAuth too, right? So it's all web standard implementations with another essentially overlay layer to provide badging. Their implementation includes both like a backpack and a relying party, so you can display your stuff, share it to social media. There's integrations for LinkedIn, Facebook, all that stuff. And then Badger also lets you create pathways into a skill, so essentially stackable skills that you can bring in from different organizations in order to create these stackable transcripts, they call them,
Mhm.
that then be the basis for a machine readable learning record system. So you can have these verifiable things. And so if OLI implemented this, we like the courses in OLI could be included in those stackable records and credentials in there. And of course, we could also build our own, but Badger currently already has integrations into Canvas and Moodle that I know of. And so having an integration into OLI might Torus might be worthwhile, so that we could provide kind of both directions capability. I looked into a little bit of the implementation stuff. Their server backend is Python and Django. The front end UI stuff it's an Angular app, so TypeScript. And if we built our own, then we would have to go and get certified before they'd let us actually connect. That's kind of what I have. That's the sip from the fire hose of a couple of hours of me reading through stuff to hopefully save time. If you want, I have some translations of stuff I put together on like terminology, what they call an assertion, a backpack, a badge class, all the nitty gritty. But at that point, it's not worth getting into if you're not interested in adopting it. So I don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah, I'm gonna
You
look
got-
into all of this. I don't know what we're gonna do, but these resources are amazing, and I really appreciate you coming back and sharing them with the community. That's excellent.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, please.
So, this sounds great. Is this who has control of the certificates, and the data once it's put into a system like Badger? Is it because, no systems forever, no websites forever. Is this something we have records of that?
Right. So that depends on whether you decide to be a relying party or a host. So if you're providing the host capability, the backpack essentially, then you're still the one that's holding on to that. A certain, like, you can have it all internal to you. If you're using them as the host and they go bye-bye, then that's gone. That's why I would assume that the interest would be to be both a host and a relying party. I believe. Again, I have spent a couple of hours reading into this. It sounds like Richard might know more.
So if we're the host and then we still have access, does the database, do you know if the database lives, where the database lives? Do we have
Well,
a
I
copy?
believe the whole idea is for it to be federated, right? So like you can provide a host, you can have badges on other hosts, and everything should be federated with each other as long as they agree. I think that's why the
So if
Richard,
Badger,
I defer to you because you clearly know more about this than I do.
okay, if Badger closes down, I just want to make sure that we don't lose our data.
I don't believe you would unless you're using Badger as your host
Yeah.
for those. If you're just a relying party, then yes. But if you're your own host, then I believe the answer is no. You'd be fine. You wouldn't care what other federates do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you so much. That was great to bring that back. For those of you who might not have been here for the last session last month, it was about certificates and badging, and Rotem brought these resources back to the community to help us figure out what we want to do going forward. So if you see anything of interest in these resources that you want to make a recommendation to us, please, by all means, do reach out to me. Let me know what you're thinking. Always want to, pick the brains of everyone who's using Torus to know exactly what you all want to see happen, and so that we can build it that way. So thanks again. Today's topic, let me share my screen, is probably something everybody is very interested in, which is release information. What features have we built? What features are we building? And what features do we expect to have in the future? So let me just start out by giving some information. Let me put this link in the chat. This link is a link to release information from our GitHub instance, and you can always keep up to date on releases there. Just so you know, the release that we're calling 2.5 went out yesterday, October 5th. And so there's some new cool features that have been rolled out, and I'll show you what those are in a minute. And then just so you know, the next release is scheduled for December 21st, and the code freeze will happen November 30th. So what happens between code freeze and release is lots of testing. And then we testing and bug fixes, and then we release it out to our production server, and that you'll find at Proton. In case you guys don't know, it's proton.oli.cmu.edu is where you can get into Torus. You can, if you don't have an account, I really do encourage you to go out, get a free account, and start playing with the authoring side of things. So today, and let me blow this up a little bit, and I'm going to turn chat off so it's not in my way here. So please speak out if you have questions. And let me make this a little bigger. So is everyone seeing my screen? And someone's going to have to say audibly because I'm not looking at it.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So as of August 2023, so this is all of the things that we have implemented and and updated through August 2023. So we have definite, we have Torus, it's up and running. People are using it. We've migrated some courses over to it as well from legacy, and some of those are in the running, actually being delivered. Lots of success with courses so far. And so this is a really big summary of some of the features. So we've done a lot in terms of content. We have different types of activities, and of course we have the ability to do pooling through our activity bank, and video integration, making sure that we have, when we say semantic content, we mean that there are the labels that we've used in legacy can be applied to different content in Torus. We've updated the look and feel, did some things around dark mode. We're always paying attention to responsiveness and making sure that when Torus courses are delivered, they're responsive on different devices. We're constantly looking at and updating things around accessibility and improvements to accessibility. We also have more documentation and things to be able to integrate with our system. We've done under ingestions, it's more about like, what have we done to support things like, for those of you who may not know, Smart Sparrow is an adaptive platform that was bought by Pearson. We've essentially reverse engineered that into Torus, so we have the whole adaptive environment to be able to build really immersive content. And we are also able to ingest a lot of content from other sources, such as Pressbooks and OpenStax. We have made improvements to the authoring and just general course management. So the flowchart based that you'll see here, that is along the lines of the adaptive. So the adaptive authoring, the ability to do adaptive authoring would really just throw you into an open field. And there's been some progress made in a new kind of wizard to walk you through how to build some basic adaptive pages, which is pretty cool. We have lots of things that we've updated and made available in terms of versioning and changes and publications. We've made improvements to our media library, done a lot to just be able to support instructors and students in terms of integrating our help desk, allowing stuff like grace periods. We're working on the catalog. There's been bookstore integration and payment system. Then in terms of research and experimentation, we have an A/B testing suite. It's in the progress right now. It's been built. I think there's still some integration that needs to happen there. But that was all part of some X Prize work that was won by us. We have, in terms of analytics, we've added some table-based analytics. We don't have the visualizations done yet, but we do have the ability to see learning analytics from the from the instructor view. And just some things we've done to make the delivery of these courses more robust. We have documentation and onboarding tools, scheduling, gating, and assessment management. And of course, we have the ability to be integrated into many LMSs. I think any that our customers use right now, we have the ability to embed Torus courses into those LMSs. But the release that just went out yesterday includes all of these things. And I'm just going to, highlight some things. You can read these bullets yourself. But essentially lots of bug fixes and enhancements to existing functionality, really. So whereas we've taken feedback from folks who are using the platform in various ways, whether it be students, instructors, authors. We've made improvements to all aspects of the platform. So let's see, I can point out some things. Any questions about anything you're seeing here? Feel free to speak up and ask, because some of these are stated in ways that might not be obvious what they are. And let me check the chat here. So chat. Yes. Thanks, Natalie. We're constantly working on analytics, so we're constantly, making sure that infrastructure is there to be able to support the types of visualizations that we'll be creating. We've also made improvements to just timing. When you go to download the raw data, it now queues it up in a way that and has more messaging around it, so that it's not only faster, but you're also alerted. Tried to add in as many tooltips, and we're still, always adding in tooltips so that folks understand what these features are when they're in the product and don't have to go out to necessarily help desk articles to find out everything. Let's see. So yeah, any questions about any of this? I'm going to stop the.
So what are assessments with 0 activities? Is that like uploading a file or something?
It's a bug fix, essentially. So there were assessments, if they didn't have activities in them, they couldn't be submitted and put them in this weird state.
Okay. I'm just not sure what an assessment with no activities would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, actually.
Yeah, it basically represents maybe just a mistake on the part of maybe the author originally, right? They created an assessment and they never inserted the multiple choice questions that were supposed to be in it, yet they published the course. And then a student started an attempt. And so
Sure.
the bug in the system was there was no way for that student to ever finish that attempt. Even if the author goes back and adds in the multiple choice questions that were supposed to be there, that original student is still stuck in that active attempt with no questions. So we took a look at the problem from a couple of different approaches. We really wanted to prevent upfront the possibility of entering into that state of creating an assessment with no activities. That was actually pretty challenging, right? And so we took the approach that let's just make the system robust against that if it is created like that, then the student can submit that attempt and get out of that state. Recognizing that there could even be some really edge use cases where you may want to create an assessment that just has some content on the page, right? You really want to guarantee that the student has read that and completed that attempt, even with no activities. There's some ways that you can hook up gating in the course where you would, essentially force the student to look at that page, read that content, and submit that 0 activity assessment before they continue, say, into the rest of the course material.
Yeah, that's a good use for that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And thanks, Darren, for explaining that. That's great. So you can see across, student-facing features, authoring, and support and admin. We've really touched every aspect of the system and continue to do so. Kieran, the documentation, I would say, is best to go to our GitHub repository, and if you need that, it's probably the best place to look. So, oh, and thanks, Darren. So coming up, so I said the next release will happen December 21st. And these are the things that we are scoping for that release. Now we're still right sizing, we're still getting estimates for the amount of work this will take, and I just have to kind of say up front that these might not all get into that release, but this is what we're considering. And and then I'll show you what else we're doing at a higher level for even further than spring 2024. So cross platform features, improve. We're going to be working on the collaborative activity. So we have collaborative spaces, we have a discussion board, and the ability to have discussions at either the course level or page level. That was actually to set the stage for down the road what we're calling social annotation. But we also know we have the need to be able to submit discussion activities as either a formative activity or graded activity. So we'll be working more on that. So Natalie, I think you've already given some requirements or talked with one of our interns about what's needed for the modern languages courses, and we're exploring other customers as well and what they'd be looking for. So if you're interested in contributing to that, please reach out to me and let me know, and I'll gladly talk to you more about what you would like to see in that. LTI launchable activities, something where you can actually, I'm not sure how to explain that exactly. Darren, do you know how to explain that in a way that's concise and easy to understand?
That was the LTI launchable activities.
Yeah.
So there are many different types of activities that are available to select from an author when creating a course, right? These are essentially built into Torus, right? Things like a multiple choice activity, check all that apply. We're looking to extend the capability of the platform so that anything that exists out there in the world that is an LTI tool. So LTI is a standard that exists to allow essentially LMSs to be able to launch arbitrary tools that correspond to a standard so that they can then talk to each other. Torus itself can act as kind of an LMS in the sense that it already contains most of the code that it needs to be able to launch an LTI compliant tool. There's just a bit more work that we have to do to kind of really fully flesh that out. What that would allow then is if one had access or was going to create an LTI compliant tool, whatever that tool ended up doing, it could be a in-depth writing assignment tool. It could be present and available then from an author to select from and place into a page in Torus. Then at runtime, when the student visits that page, Torus orchestrates that necessary LTI launch to display that tool. So it's basically a way to allow the system, Torus, to be extended without having to change the code, right? Because these other tools live and are hosted and are developed by third parties. But to position the platform to significantly expand the different types of activities that are available and that could be used and embedded in courseware.
Thank you so much for that. And Candace, you have a question? Candace, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted.
It's okay.
So that's exciting to think about using LTI in that direction to integrate existing activities into Torus. My question would be, are you looking at then also creating a way in which those activities would send data from the learner interactions with those activities to feed the knowledge modeling predictive algorithms?
Yeah, so we would look first to work within what exists in the LTI standard, right? Because we want them to still operate kind of as standalone LTI tools and assume that there are things that are out there in the world, right, that we would want to plug in. And so we'd have to only look at using the LTI assignment and grade services. So a tool can communicate back a result essentially back to the platform after the student has finished interacting with it. So as long as we allow the capability that when one of these types of activities is present and embedded onto a page, that we provide an additional way to tag the learning objectives, right, that apply to that instance of that activity, then Torus, the platform, when it handles back these assignment and grades, essentially when the tool sends back the grade or score result to Torus, that gets applied as a completed attempt that then feeds into, and right, since it's tied to some set of learning objectives, that's going to feed into the rest of the analytics infrastructure in the platform.
Great. So you're going to explicitly create in that essentially score integration a way of connecting to a learning outcome that exists in Torus in that platform.
Right. Yeah. So really that part of it is going to be within Torus itself, right? We're going to add in anytime somebody places an LTI activity on a page, we provide an extra bit of UX that says, for this activity, what are the objectives that you're setting out, right, to address, right, to instruct upon, because the tool has no notion of that. We have no way to communicate that information to it.
Totally get it. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Darren, again. So that's the LTI launchable activity. Upgrade improvements. Upgrade is the A/B testing suite that Carnegie Learning has developed, and that's what we're integrating with for our A/B testing and bolstering research capabilities within the platform. We also hope to add some credentialing, or possibly even just starting to build the infrastructure for credentialing as we work out what we really want, and being able to bolster and use, I assume, Darren, that the PhET Labs next increment is maybe also to start to integrate them in a way we can collect data from them, or does that already exist and this increment is something else?
I'm not sure what that work entails, though I'm fairly sure that it's not making version 26 at this point. I think it was on the edge kind of to begin with.
Right.
And I don't think it, I think there's a strong possibility that it's not making the cut.
Okay, thanks for that. And by the way, just so you know, I mean, I really, this roadmap is like hot off the presses. And so Norm had been working on these slides for another presentation, and I kind of stole his slides. So I have been in conversations, and so is Darren and others about all of these features. But what makes the cut or doesn't is still kind of up in the air. So just so you guys know that, for full disclosure. So some other cool stuff that we'll be working on, and we're really starting to look at Torus from all of these different roles that use Torus. So students, instructors, authors, of course, our admin capabilities and help desk support, and then of course, the core infrastructure and development environment. So for students, some really great improvements that are coming are refining the sign up and the system for direct delivery to students. Something that's been requested often and frequently is where you left off, being able for students to come back to the part of the course that they left originally, so they don't have to navigate back to where they left off. And improved table of contents. So for those of you who might be familiar now, the table of contents in the student view is just a listing of all the units and modules. I think there's some indenting, but there's no numbering at the moment. So we're going to improve those capabilities so that folks can find their way better or get to something they're looking for easier and faster. And then just the general UI and some UI improvements. So for instructors, we're constantly working on reporting and how to improve that. We're collecting feedback all the time for how to make those things better. And one of those things is being able to navigate or view data in a table that has a lot of data in it. So when these tables get upwards of more than 10 rows at a time, how does that present to folks, and how do they navigate that? So looking into how to improve that. Being able to turn on and off discussions is something that we've been asked to do. Some instructors want to be able to just disable them all or enable them all. Some things like that are being included. We have some placeholders in the system right now for using the data that's being collected on courses and serving that up to instructors to kind of recommend some next steps and actions about their students or about the content, you know. So trying to improve those notifications and serve those up in a way that's really actionable and helpful to the instructors. Let's see, anything here in any of these categories that you want to ask specifically about, please feel free to just come off mute and ask or put it in the chat. Simplifying the gating and scheduling. We have really great, robust gating and scheduling in there right now. So making some improvements to that based on feedback. Lots of things going on in the authoring environment. And that's something where, you know, I know my team and I are in there frequently working in Torus authoring. So, you know, understanding and making some improvements to the publishing workflow, being able to see things like history, page history, history on the course and what's been going on. Audio submission, this is something that we've been, that's been requested for the modern languages and others as well, being able to have a submission for the students where they actually can submit an audio file, and being able to view the survey data that is, so we've built the infrastructure for delivering surveys, and so now being able to actually get that data like the rest of the data in the course and review that. Multiple correct and input is something that's very useful in terms of activity types. And so also if you have ideas for other activity types, always open to hear those. And better cross-project sharing, being able to do better cutting and pasting. And we're always working on importing content from different places. So if you have ideas, if you know there's content out there that you're thinking, oh, I'd love to ingest that into Torus and build a course off of that, let us know if there's formats that you regularly use. Again, something we're always improving on. And then being able to just support and report out on usage, essentially, giving full access to admins to be able to see and navigate the system in various ways to help with support issues or even just reporting. Normalized institution list is something that I'm sure is going to make Hal very happy, as that's something that's a constant problem for those who don't know. When you're entering in your institution in a field, you can imagine if we're not normalizing that data, we get a number of different things for the same thing. Like, so for example, if it's even Carnegie Mellon University, some people might input CMU, some people might just say Carnegie Mellon, some people might put in Carnegie Mellon University. So normalizing that so everybody's data comes in the same way, and we can do some robust reporting on that. Of course, always improving the documentation and always improving system capabilities and optimization, essentially. So anything there that anybody wants to ask about or suggest anything about in this list while I take a drink. Okay, well, go
A
ahead.
couple of these things, while they are listed as candidate features for version 26, they've parts of them have been implemented for the version that we released yesterday, version 25. So under the simplified gating and scheduling that's instructor facing, one thing that we've released yesterday is the availability the capability that one can easily set the availability date for an assessment, for a quiz. So there's a visual kind of Gantt chart style scheduler that instructors have access to, and also a table-based view that lists all of the settings for all of the graded pages. In both of those contexts now, an instructor can set when a graded page becomes available to the student. Previously, you could only set the due date for that graded page, and then kind of some settings around what to do when the student gets past that due date. Now it's easy kind of visually to set and see visually, right, when you have graded pages that are becoming available, how long they're available, right, and when the due date is. So that was able to be done in the past, but there was a really difficult to use interface to be able to kind of pull that off. So that should now be far more approachable for an instructor.
Fantastic. Thanks for putting those out, Darren. Okay, so looking to the future. So these are the candidate features for after 2.6, and again, less detailed, more at a high level, but just to give you all an idea of what's coming. And so if you're interested in providing some, and let me make this bigger, folks. I saw how like kind of squinting.
Well, yeah, and I also was trying to read where it says Student Center Portal. I think it was just a typo. At first, I thought I was misreading it, but
Oh,
it's just a typo.
it is
My
just,
mistake.
that's funny. So some features that are on deck to still collect requirements about and feedback on. So always welcoming your ideas for how you want some of these things to be shaped and come about. So improve student UX and UI. That's being worked on at the moment. We plan to implement it after 2.6, after the 2.6 release. So that's being worked on now, but we're going to release it later. And that also includes a student center portal. Social annotation is something we're really excited about. Really the ability to for students to be able to actually highlight text and things in the content, and for that to populate a text or discussion post that they could send off to their instructor and or share with other students and start a discussion around pieces of content within a page. That's to really help support students supporting each other, and also letting instructors know where students might be struggling with the content. We are working on integrating some AI, and I would speak more to that, but I've heard a lot of different things being kicked around about different types of AI components we're going to be implementing, and just we'll be doing that in a slow and thoughtful way. But that includes support for students and support for instructors, and maybe even being able to not read the analytics, but use the analytics in some way that recommendations can be made to instructors based on the analytics. And so we'll also be improving and implementing some analytics dashboards and visualizations, and assessment choice level reporting. That's new to me. Not sure what that means, but I imagine it means improving assessments. I don't know if Darren, if you even know what that means. These are such high level.
Yeah, I think what that is in reference to is exposing the ability to the instructor to give them aggregate views across student performance for practice pages and for assessments, right? So if I've got multiple choice questions in an assessment and the students have been working through it for a week, right? Can I quickly get a visual summary, right, of the kind of histogram of the breakdown of how students are answering?
Yes.
Right? Like, is it very clear? Can we make it very clear to the instructor when they're seeing kind of patterns of, wow, 75% of the students are going to this, answering this question and picking this specific distractor, right? That then can feed back into, right, the next class session that they have, right? They can then take on and talk about maybe that particular misconception that was feeding that.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's something we've been working on for a while, needing. It's, really for learning designers, that's super important. So really being able to see the distribution of answers so that you can, see in the aggregate, exactly where students are struggling essentially as they in real time as they're working on assessments. Student view for instructors, I mean, that exists today, so I assume that means some enhancements and improvements to that. For researchers, improved A/B testing, so integrating that upgrade system and being able to use it. Improving the adaptive system UX and UI. Right now, that's also, we've included these wizards to help guide folks, but I'm sure we can still always room for improvement. Candace, you have another question? Please.
It's back on the analytics dashboards and instructor reporting. In addition to the kind of reporting that's being done now, are you looking at using any kind of knowledge modeling algorithms that are taking the student actions in the course and using different approaches other than, just how many they got right, how many they got wrong, and how many they completed to estimate their current knowledge state to communicate to the instructor?
As you know, it is something that exists in our legacy system, and so we're always talking about it. But I think at the moment we're working incrementally toward that, for laying the groundwork and the infrastructure, and really talking to a lot of stakeholders to find out what would be the baseline approach. And then I know that Norm has this vision for being able to even experiment with different models and approaches. So the answer, yes, ish.
Okay.
Like yes, but I can't give you any guarantee on when.
Okay. I guess what I'm really asking is if I were to build such a component that took what I know the available OLI data feed is, and had essentially like a little model hosting service that could then put in using different knowledge modeling algorithms, select the best match, or again, a researcher could choose that, and then use that to make the estimate of the learner state and have some way of presenting that back either through a graphical representation or through kind of an AI chatbot that the instructor could converse with to understand what the system is estimating, and maybe even make a recommendation about activities that the instructor could offer the students to help them. If I were to build such a thing,
we would love it.
would that be of interest to connect into the Torus platform?
I would say yes. I mean, just easily to say yes to that. And I know that there have been conversations, I've been included in some conversations where that is the vision, what you just described. So I would say, yeah, if you want to work on it in the background, nobody's going to stop you.
Okay. I just don't want to step on or get in the way of the existing roadmap.
Yeah, I can tell you though, as the roadmap gets into this territory, this features for Q1, Q2, again, I don't think we're just laying the basic foundation for these things at the moment. So
But maybe it would be good, maybe Darren, maybe you and I and whoever else is interested could also maybe talk offline about how you were thinking of approaching that, so that whatever it is that I build doesn't interfere with what it is you're trying to build.
Yeah, that would be a good conversation to probably start to have, because from like an architectural perspective, in the platform, one of the things that jumps out to me as a concern, like heading down that path is that there would be a third-party system that's outside of the boundary of Torus, where we have now a key dependency on that thing running and serving back information that's critical to kind of providing insights to instructors. So we have to be very careful to kind of head down that path. But it could make a lot of sense, even as at first kind of an experimental plug this in as an alternate option for the admittedly kind of naive approach that's built into the system today, as we work towards kind of a real kind of longer term vision.
Yeah. Oh, and just I think everyone on the call knows this. I'm a big open source software person. So if all of this would be created and then contributed back to the Torus.
That's fantastic, because that would avoid the situation that we're currently in, where the that is not the case with the original implementation of the core kind of learning dashboard algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Candace can attest to that. So she already created this at Stanford. So this is, yeah, an open source analytics that connected. So
It used
right
to
in.
connect up to Open edX, but I'm totally
Yeah.
and I have a
Yeah.
different knowledge modeling algorithm I want to use now that's created by one of the PhD students.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we'd love to see this work going on, because it can be the, you know, the foundation for what ends up being, you know, the approach that we take as a baseline approach in Torus. So this is
and it
great.
could expedite getting something going, which would
Yes.
be great.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's something I'm missing, for sure.
Something we're all missing.
Yeah.
All of us who grew up in the legacy system.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Right. And in fact, I mean, now that you mention it, Candace, I would love to have you back to even just give a good demo of what you built so far and what might be what comes next, you know?
Oh, sure. But actually, the piece that Kim is referring to, I built. I guess it was before I went to Amazon, so it would be like 6 years ago. So
Yeah, Laura's was a while ago. We've learned a lot since then.
we've learned a lot since then. So the new system would be different, and different doctoral students working on it too.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. I'm really excited about that. I'm glad to hear you're working on it. So that's all, you know, analytics, and of course, data access and reporting is also part of this, being able to get the data out in different ways that you can use it. For authors, I'm excited to see that we're going to make improvements to being able to provide rubrics, workflows always being improved, media library improvements, which also includes some accessibility improvements I know of, and you know, being able always to be able to import content from additional sources. And I mentioned this more than once, but really want to hear from you all if you have content and other sources that we should be considering, you know, sooner than later, so that we can make sure that we have the capability to ingest that content. And then for core and infrastructure, constantly making improvements to performance and you know, optimizing the performance of the system and the data pipeline. It's just always going to be one of those things that we're working on and improving on consistently. So, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I just meant to stop the presentation. But any other you know, ideas, concerns, questions? Don't want to end too early without considering all of your feedback. And I lost my window here. Give me a second. Okay, well, I think that's all I have for you today. Always visit the, you know, the community page, and let me grab this link for you all and put it in chat. This is where you can keep track of what's happening in terms of this community meeting. You can view past recordings. You can see what's coming up in terms of topics. The next meeting will be November 6th, always the first Friday of every month. And right now it's to be determined what we're going to do. There's so much happening and so much to show off. We want it to be, you know, up to date and show and share the latest and greatest. So I will be sending out a reminder when that meeting is about to happen, and I'll let you know the topic then, or as soon as I know it, I'll put it out on the community site. But with that, I really thank you all for joining and participating. Super excited. Always great things happening on this platform. It's so cool to see it come to be and continue improvements and usage. So please, if you haven't, go out, get an account, start playing, and contact us. How I, Darren, any of us are here to support any of you and all of you as you start to use and deliver courses and content through our system. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for sharing your lunch hour or whatever it is, wherever you are with us. And I hope to see you on November 6th or before then.
Thank you, Erin. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, Erin, I had asked if I could get a copy of this recording because there's some stuff here I want to share further, if that's possible. That'd
Oh,
be great.
absolutely. I will be putting it out. In fact, I'll try and get that done by end of the day today, putting it out on the Torus community site.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So last time we deployed the student cognition toolbox, it looks like the server was overloaded. And the date that everything was due, the system basically like melted down for like 4 hours.
Oh my.
So I'm still trying to sort out if that's an issue because we use it as an external tool through Canvas, whether it's an issue with Canvas's external tool feature, or it was like a meltdown with like on the OLI and with the toolbox itself. But I was just wondering, like, how do I go about kind of vetting that further? Like, is there someone I should meet with at OLI? I have one of the students that this happened to